Guys, can we be real about something? The MLB All-Star Game is kind of stupid. Most of us tune in to watch and vote feverishly to get our favorite team superstars into the game, sure, but I think we can all agree that the whole thing is kind of silly. It's viewed as a career accolade when it's only representative of half of a player's season. Fans from larger cities can band together and get their entire team's roster into the game via public voting. And the funniest part of all is that the game itself is ultimately meaningless, and 90% of the guys that make it don't even really try. I mean, hell, the same team wins every year, and as a National League fan, I'm embarrassed. But here's the thing. As stupid as the All-Star Game is logistically, we're all fans at the end of the day. We love to see the players we love get the recognition that they deserve, and vice versa. Like, I'm so mentally prepared for Francisco Lindor to get snubbed again. Please don't hurt me again. It's just nice seeing underrated players and breakout stars of the game get their time in the national spotlight, because who knows when they'll get that opportunity again. I say that because there are so many great players who never got that nod for some reason. But my pick for the most egregious snub of all time, considering how good his peak was and the people who got in over him, was Oakland A's third baseman Eric Chavez. He won 6 straight Gold Gloves, routinely hit for 30 home runs, and had a 7-year peak where he was a beacon of consistency, and yet he retired, never having made the Midsummer Classic. Let's find out why. Our story begins in 1998, the year that Eric Chavez would make the big leagues for the first time. Earlier that year, his own organization didn't extend a spring training invite to him though. Yeah, this whole video is going to be a John Fisher masterclass, just buckle up people, okay? Chavez was named the Minor League Player of the Year that season by Baseball America, making him the first Oakland player to achieve the accolade since Jose Canseco in 1985. However, it wouldn't be until 2001 where he began to establish himself as one of the premier hot corner players in all of baseball. His 2001 season still stands out as his best. He clubbed over 30 home runs and collected over 100 RBI in a remarkable 6-WAR season at age 23. While he was overshadowed offensively by the reigning AL MVP winner Jason Giambi, who would finish runner-up in 2001, Eric Chavez had put himself on the map as a dynamic threat on both sides of the ball thanks to his superb defense at third base. Since the turn of the century, he's one of just 20 different third basemen with a 6-WAR and 30 homer season. When we limit that to players aged 23 or younger, it's just Evan Longoria, Troy Glaus, Manny Machado, and Eric Chavez. He became the first third baseman in A's history to win a Gold Glove when he achieved the feat in 2001, which became the first of 6 straight seasons winning the award for the defensive whiz. Only Matt Chapman has won a Gold Glove at third base in franchise history since. The criteria for Gold Glove winners often boils down to a popularity contest, but for Chavez, it felt like the award fell into the right hands year in and year out. After all, you gotta do a lot of things right to win it 6 years in a row. And he heavily credits longtime infield coach of the team, Ron Washington, as a massive reason for his defensive prowess. In fact, moments after he won the award again in 2003, he gave the gold trophy over to Washington as a show of gratitude. And if you've seen the movie Moneyball, you know that Ron Washington knows defense.
You don't know how to play first base. Scott?
That's right.
It's not that hard, Scott. Tell him, Wash.
It's incredibly hard.
Okay, seriously guys, this guy doesn't even look like Ron Washington. Did we even try? As consistent as he was defensively, he also matched that rhythm at the plate. He's one of just 10 players to hit 20 home runs or more every season from 2000 to 2006, a 7-season span. He's joined by only one other third baseman in this window, in former MVP winner Chipper Jones. And if we shrink the span to 5 seasons from 2001 to 2005, Chavez is one of just 9 players to put up 4 WAR or more in each campaign. So Chavez was racking up wins above replacement, collecting Gold Gloves annually, routinely taking the field for a majority of his games, and hitting a healthy amount of home runs. So how in the world did this guy not make a single All-Star team along the way? Now, we already discussed the 2 inherent flaws that the league seems to make impossible to overcome when it comes to the All-Star game. The rosters are decided by fan voting, and the game itself takes place halfway through the season, meaning all it takes is a good first half to crack the roster potentially. This has led to tons of odd and sometimes completely undeserved All-Star spots in the history of the game. And I actually have a whole video from 2 years ago on the weirdest cases that I could find, so if you're interested, go check it out. But with all that in mind, the fact that Eric Chavez dominated a premier position on both sides of the ball for over half a decade and couldn't crack the roster not even one time is mind-boggling. So I decided to look at each team's roster and figured out who took those spots from him in all of those years. We'll start in 2001, which was his best season. This one was a tough draw for him. The third base spots were occupied by starter Alex Rodriguez, who volunteered to move over so Cal Ripken Jr. could play shortstop in his final season in MLB. The lone reserve on this team was Troy Gloss, who'd finished his second straight 40-homer campaign that season. It's tough that this was Chavez's best season as a big leaguer, and the spot went to another young, up-and-coming third baseman in his own division. I don't know Eric Chavez as a person, but do you think he was a little happy seeing Troy Gloss get 0 home runs in the home run derby? I think he was a little bit happy, right? As for the other reserve spots on the roster, it's pretty confusing why Tony Clark got the nod. His first half performance greatly outweighed his second half, which results in a pretty curious all-star selection in retrospect. I think we can all agree that Chavez is probably more deserving in this case. In 2002, the start went to second-year third baseman Shea Hillenbrand of the Red Sox, who remains one of the strangest all-star starters in the history of the game. Now, it is true that Eric Chavez is a notorious slow starter, but in this first half, he clubbed 20 home runs, which is more than Hillenbrand had in his entire full season. But the Boston faithful showed out strong in fan voting. And that is another thing to consider here. Oakland's fan base was admittedly smaller than the major markets, so a lot of their stars didn't really get into the game. The reserve third basemen this time around were Tony Bautista and Robin Ventura, who both put up respectable seasons. But Chavez has them beat pretty handily in every major offensive statistic. Of Chavez's 7 snubs in his prime, this one is one of the worst for sure, considering who got in over him. 2003 was another season where AL West third baseman got to shine at the Midsummer Classic, but Eric Chavez was once again not one of them. Troy Gloss got the start at third base, unsurprisingly considering that the Angels were coming off a World Series victory. Gloss only ended up playing 5 games in the second half due to injury, making this all-star nod another peculiar one. The third base reserve was Hank Blaylock, his first of 2 consecutive all-star appearances, and both of them were very deserved in my opinion. His 2-year stretch here doesn't get talked about enough as one of the better pairs of seasons from a third baseman this century. What should be probably debated more though is that Chavez's own teammate Ramon Hernandez became an all-star reserve that season with decent enough numbers, but 2 less WAR overall than Chavez himself. Obviously catcher is more of a priority position, but did we need 3 catchers overall? Well, I'll let you be the judge. 2004 kicked off a stretch dominated by Alex Rodriguez during his time at the hot corner with the New York Yankees. And with Hank Blaylock as the lone third base reserve, this led to another Chavez snub. In a year where Chavez posted his career best OPS, led the American League with 95 walks, and won his 4th straight Gold Glove, some of the reserves that made this roster over him are just egregious. The worst case has to be Ken Harvey of the 2004 Kansas City Royals, who finished his career with negative wins above replacement overall. Harvey had an admittedly good first half with an OPS above 800, but because every team needs a representative, he ended up getting the nod over someone like Eric Chavez. I mean, look at this career comparison. One is an all-star and one's not. That's crazy. 2005 marks the last year where I truly believe Eric Chavez getting snubbed was inexcusable. Alex Rodriguez of the Yankees once again got the start, and longtime Orioles third baseman Melvin Mora got a reserve spot in the midst of what was a great stretch of baseball for him and a very underrated career. But luckily, this was a rare year where the third base position got 2 all-star reserve spots instead of 1. That's great news. Let's see who got the other spot. Oh my god, it's Shea Hillenbrand again. Are you guys fucking kidding me?
To beat the best, you gotta be the best. Chase Vision presents Shea Hillenbrand in The Hustle.
There goes the black ball. That's right. Shea.
It's crazy to me that he ends his career with 2 all-star nods compared to Eric Chavez's 0. For reference, Chavez managed to put up almost all of Shea Hillenbrand's entire career wins above replacement in his 2001 season alone, and he hit 150 more home runs than Shea in his 17 years as an MLB regular. This could have been an easy opportunity to give Eric Chavez the long overdue first all-star nod of his career, but it wasn't meant to be. Once again. Now, I will mention that it is completely fair to say that Chavez's habit of slow starts prevented him from getting into an all-star game. His career OPS of 855 in the second half is over 60 points higher than that of his first half mark, but some of his first half performances in his snub seasons were certainly all-star quality. In 2002, he led all third basemen in weighted runs created plus at the end of the first half and wins above replacement as well. Guys have gone in with far worse numbers in my opinion. And the most important question of all, did Eric Chavez care about any of this? I have no idea. In the midst of his legendary run of snubs, Eric Chavez inked a 6-year contract extension worth $66 million, which, up until last year, was the largest contract signed in the history of the franchise. This contract is notable because the Oakland A's had also made the decision to let former MVP winner Miguel Tejada walk away in free agency. He signed his own 6-year deal worth $72 million with the Baltimore Orioles. Tejada instantly put up his career-best season with 7.5 WAR and an MLB leading 150 runs batted in at shortstop, making the All-Star team in 5 of those 6 seasons of his contract. Looking at this objectively, I agree with Oakland's decision as to who they decided to give money to. They chose to sign the defensively gifted Chavez, who was 4 years younger for the same amount of years in the contract and less average annual value. But with everything we know now, it's very clear that Miguel Tejada's contract fared much better, and here's why. Eric Chavez's career took a noticeable turn in the offseason following the 2005 campaign. The Athletics had introduced a new strength program to their organization, which enabled Chavez to gain almost 25 pounds of pure muscle. Chavez posted his worst offensive numbers since his sophomore season in 1999 in the season that followed. He also missed 25 games. This amount of missed time was just the tip of the iceberg in terms of the onslaught of health problems Chavez would endure in the coming years. I should also preface this by saying that the Oakland Athletics training staff had many lowlights during this era of play in the mid-2000s. They diagnosed Mark Mulder with a hip strain when he actually had a broken femur. Former Rookie of the Year winner Bobby Crosby played for weeks with a broken back after getting the green light from the training staff. Chavez dealt with a myriad of different injuries beginning in 2007, the 3rd year of his 6-year contract. He dealt with a bulging disc in his back, then underwent season-ending surgery on his throwing shoulder in September. In the offseason, he also got a surgery on his back and then another surgery on his non-throwing shoulder a month later, making that 3 operations in the span of 50 days. As Chavez's back ailments continued to pile up and he dealt with more injuries in his neck, forearm, and feet in the ensuing years, his time spent on the field for the A's plummeted. After playing in over 150 games 5 times in 6 seasons from 2000 to 2006, he played in just 154 games total in a 4-year stretch from 2007 to 2010. Eric Chavez's career is a bittersweet one to reflect on. With 6 Gold Gloves, nearly 40 wins above replacement, over 250 home runs, and 13 years spent with one single team, Eric Chavez is one of the most iconic players of his era. He's the longest continuously tenured Athletic in the history of the franchise, and only Rickey Henderson had more years spent with the franchise total at 14 seasons overall. The sad part is that over 30 wins above replacement of his 38.3 total was compiled in the first half of his career alone, and it's hard to imagine how much more he could have accomplished had his body held up in his late 20s and entire 30s. So considering his peak and the guys that got in over him, I feel pretty comfortable calling Eric Chavez the greatest player to never make an All-Star team. But I think that's all I got for today's video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel, and thank you for watching until the end. I'll see you guys next time.